Hey, what's up guys? It's your boy JT, and in today's video, we're getting ready to talk about how to use the power windows in DaVinci Resolve. Alright guys, so look, I've got a couple of clips here. We're going to jump over into these power windows using DaVinci Resolve. So the first thing I'm going to say is this. We've touched a lot on using undoing the primary corrections. That's where you go in, you adjust your white balance, you're going in, you're adjusting your exposure, and then you're also looking at, even going in and kind of neutralizing your images by balancing your reds, your greens, and your blues for your entire image before you go in and begin to do a lot of the other creative things like adding a LUT or, creating certain looks. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to take our flat images that we've shot, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to correct them, and then we're going to do some creative things with them. But we're going to go a little bit further than just your primary corrections. We're going to jump into some of these secondary corrections, and this is where you begin to isolate specific things that you want to do and that you want to get accomplished for your image. So, tell you what, I've got two clips I've just pulled out of here. Pretty much from the same time. I was just taking a couple of shots of some things in the area, and so we're going to go down here to our color page, and we're going to click here so you can see here where my exposure is. And remember how we can go in and kind of find the trace. Now this is not moving, but you should be able to see just by looking at the trace where you have your most pixel and lighting information accumulated at. Okay, you can also kind of see where you are clipping. All right, so that being the case, the very first thing we're going to do, that thing that I say I always do is I always go in, and the first thing I like to do is label my nodes. I'm going to set this node tree up for this particular image based on what it is that I want to do. Now we could use a shortcut, but you already know, because I don't know who just came in or who just began to view this. I don't want them to be shortcut on the process. I want everybody to be able to follow along. So, and most of you guys already know that I'm going to tell you, if you have come looking for a 10 to 15 minute, a 10 to 15, and so I'm going to tell you, if you've come to look at a 5 to 15 second video, this is probably not the channel for you, but I'm gonna make sure you get your money's worth. So here we go. Let's go ahead and name this node. I'm gonna name it original. I hate when it does that. That's my computer. So touchpad. All right, now how do we add new nodes? We're gonna go Option S, and so that's gonna be my white balance. This is gonna be my exposure, color balance, saturation. We'll do one for contrast, one for detail. That's it for now. These are pretty much my primary corrections that I do on all of my images. All right, use that for white balance. Then I'm gonna come and drag the rest of these up top. And this is, look, you don't have to mimic this. Organize it the way that you want it organized, but this is just what I do. So yeah, let's go. So this right here, I'm going to say is my exposure. This is where I'm going to go in and, let me see here. Okay, there we go. So yeah, this is where I'm going to go in and, make my exposure corrections. For whatever reason, guys, for whatever reason, my touchpad is super sensitive. Right. And like I said, I always like to go ahead and name all of my nodes, just because I'm just one of those guys. You know what I'm saying? I like to accidentally hit something like this touchpad is being super sensitive. I don't know why, but But anyway, I always like to, we'll call that sharpness. Yeah. I always like to name them. And this is pretty much a standard for me when it comes to my initial primary corrections. All right. And by primary, I just mean like my first set of corrections that I pretty much will do all the time. And I'll set it up like this. You don't have to set your node tree up the way mine is. I just like to do it. I'm used to doing it like this. And for me, this is the best way for me to keep things organized. And, when you already know kind of where you're going to go with this, you also can go ahead and just create your entire node tree if you want, and then just save it under your power windows. That way, you don't have to keep doing it over and over again. As a matter of fact, this is what I'm going to do. So I've got my sharpness. I'm going to come down here, go Option S, and I'm going to do these for my color space transforms, okay? And I'm going to put one down here for a LUT, just in case I decide I do want to have some kind of a creative look. But for now, this right here, I'm going to say would suffice for basically any kind of a project that you would have. I'm going to say CST1. I'm not really going to go for a look, but in case I decide to later, I'm going to go ahead and put it out there now. Then I'm going to put a LUT here. Right now, we're not getting ready to do anything. But here we go. Sharpness, I'm going to do another Option S. I'm going to bring that down here. This row right here is going to start off my secondary corrections. This is where I'm just going to call it subject. Okay. This way, I can just kind of know where I'm going to begin. And I'll probably begin my secondary corrections here. And we're going to get there. But for now, let's have a little fun with doing some of these things that we know how to do. Watch this. So here's our original. Let's come right here on this white balance. You see where it says Sony? I'm gonna click on that for my white balance. Click on my color wheel. Now come right here for my white balance. Click on this, and there we go. I'm sure it did something subtly, but I wanted to pick on something that was white. All right, now I'm going to go to my exposure. And you see how we have this right now. Let's go ahead and throw a color space transform on, so we can kind of see what we're looking at. This will also give you an indication of just how closely you hit something that was realistic. I know we haven't gotten on color space transforms, but you'll see exactly what I'm doing. So all I'm doing is picking here the actual camera information that I have on my camera. So I shot with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, and then we have our output color space. We're just going to go in Rec 709 just because that's what I normally do. And then I'm going to come down here to a Gamma 2.2. All right, so there we go. So now this right here gives me a pretty good indication of what my actual image looked like in real life when I shot it, and this would be pretty close to it. But as you can see here, let's come back up to exposure. Now remember, we want to stay organized, so come over here to exposure, and you can see here, like you see this white, it just looks white. I mean, that's pretty much blown out. I mean, those windows were open on there, so and you can see that here. You see how those highlights are right there. Remember, we like looking at our trace, because our trace is what's really going to be the thing we want to be in total control over for our image. So we want to look at our trace. We can see where the accumulation of information, light, color, and pixels is on our actual image. I'm going to say this right about here. And so now we know what we can do. It's not on that line. It is approaching the line. But when I look at my image, I can see that there are spaces that, I can probably expand some of my shadow areas. So let's expand a little bit. Looking at our trace, see, we're opening that image up more within our shadows area. And then I'm going to just add a little bit of lift. This will give me a little bit more room to kind of push and pull. Remember how we use our waveform scope. Okay. All right, now I want to bring that down just a little bit, because you see what's happening, right? I don't want that to happen too much, but just a little bit. Okay, now we'll come over here to our color balance, and then we'll switch over to our parade. And just looking right here, looks pretty balanced to me, right, guys? Even our scope here, there's a little bit more red. It's dipping down just a little bit on our trace below the green and the blue, but we can play around with that. Let's go over here to our color wheel, and right here, let's see if we can raise that just a smidge without it impacting too much. All right, so that's where you can begin to see some of that. You can actually see some of that. So we're going to raise it up here just a little bit, and then we'll come over here and we'll pull it down some of our highlights. Okay, I like that. So now we've got our saturation. But I like to use the color boost more than I like to use the saturation. Let's crank it just a little bit. We don't want anything to be unrealistic or too much. So kind of like that. Let's see what our changes look like so far. Okay. All right. Now let's come over here. Let's go back to our waveform scope. Let's add a little contrast. Suppose we want to have a little room to kind of push and pull on it, right? There we go. Yeah, there we go. All right, it's looking better and better. Now, we've got a sharpness. We'll put it at about 23. Okay. All right, guys. So we've gone from this to this. You can see just how much our waveform is opened up. So we've got a lot of information coming in there. Let's now come over here to where we have our subject. So we just did a basic primary corrections here in this first row. Okay, now we're going to come over to our subject. Where is our subject? Our subject is here. Introducing the power windows. Let me come over here and turn off the my window, so that way I can make sure that you can see, because I think you missed some instruction on that with that lift, but we already know we were messing with the lift. So here, all right, I want to show you what these power windows do. So we're going to click on this window icon. This is for our power windows. It gives us our rectangle, it gives us our circle, it gives us our polygon. No, this is, there we go. All right, now it gives us our pen tool, and it gives us the gradient. Okay, there we go. Now turn these off. All right, let's come in here now and let's put a box over. We'll say right here. Now, anything that we do right now, number one, it's going to be bound by the borders of whatever that shape that we selected. So for this one, we'll come in here and let's just add some blue. You see that? Wherever we move that shape, that's where that particular correction is going to be. So as you can see, if we want to come in and just pick a couple of things and create those shapes, then those shapes will confine whatever that change is that we do. It could be color, it could be exposure, it could be sharpness, it could be blur. This is how you would actually be able to do that. So let's say we said, hey, we don't want anybody to know that these are Sony headphones. You can come here, you can grab those points. We say, okay, we don't want anybody to know that those are Sony headphones. So let's I'm going to reset all of my primary color wheels changes that I made, but now I'm going to click over here on my blur, and I'm going to come in here and blur that out. You see how you see how it just blurred out the Sony? That's how you be able to blur that out. So we've come in, we've given it a value, so now you don't know what kind of headphones they are because we just blurred that out. All right, now let me reset that. So let's come back over here to our color wheels, and let's say we want to just add some color over that. That's it. and that color is actually bound by whatever that shape is of that particular polygon. Of that particular power window. All right, so now it's the same thing for all of the other shapes. So we'll go ahead and reset this. Okay, now what you see is since we made those changes, we don't have anything that puts a fence around those changes so that they're in control. But now the minute we do this, bam, just like that, whatever that change is that we make is going to be bound by the power window. Okay, let's come in here. We'll even use the pen tool. Look at this. Once we close this up, then that color change that we did is going to be found within inside of the shape that we create. Okay, so look, take your footage, play with it. You cannot break it. I guarantee you, if you go in there, you start doing some things, you'll be able to either reset or start over, but you can't break the software, I promise you. I'm going to reset this. And let's come here. Here's one of my favorites. I use this right here all the time. This is the gradient. You see how as I move that gradient around, I can move it up here. Here, the bottom of this arrow here, you can use that like an anchor point. Well, you can use that like an anchor. Your actual anchor point is this center point right here. You can use this as a directional way to be able to show. And the further you pull out, the more that gradient is going to fill out. As you can see, this area here is more saturated than it is away from it. So the further you get away from it, then that's when it begins you really can see the strength of the gradient of the mask. All right, same wheel. You see that? It's super concentrated on that side, but then as you get over here, it completely changes up. So, and guys, this should show you that you have a lot of control. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and reset that. Then let's come out here to where our power windows, to where our primary wheels are. We're going to reset that to get back to original image. Now, we're going to come back over here to our power windows, and we're still on a subject node. All right, let's say we want to highlight this ear muff right here. Okay, we want to highlight that ear muff. We'll grab this corner window so it enlarges it, in a more universal way. These red grips out here, you can use as a way to feather or soften the edges of the power window. Okay, so let me reset that again for you. I'm going to click on here. Now I'm going to grab the corner, and then I'm going to come back out. Now let's make a couple of changes here. Okay, I'm going to add some blue into the highlight. I'm going to add some orange into the midtones. I'm going to add some green into the shadows. All right, now watch this. So you see that all of those changes that I just made are within the border of this particular power window, right? Now, right now it's just harsh. As a matter of fact, let's turn it off so we can see if we can see a defined edge. Well, we can't see what defined is right there, but if we click on another node, you can see it. You can literally see that circle. Now watch this. We're going to click back on subject just to make sure that this node is the one that's highlighted, and we can see the mask again. Grab one of these red clips here, and you can make the edges soften. So now it's not as defined. Okay, let's just click somewhere just to be able to see. It's like you can't tell where it starts, where it ends, but you can see the influence of that mask. Okay, or that power window, so to speak. Now, what's something else we can do with this? You see this area right here. Right now, it shows that this dot in the middle has the circle, okay? And it shows the area around the box is empty. That means that the information is inside of the mask. But if we click on this, the information is now outside the mask. You see how that works? Let's click on it again. Inside the mask, outside the mask. And that's pretty much how that works. Okay. So now, let's do this. Let's put it back inside that mask. And let's come out here. I want to make this, let's make this whiter. You like that green influence? I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's put it outside. And then let's come in here and let's pull our curve. Let's get our curve. We can bring our curve down. Thus, we are decreasing our exposure around those headphones, and the mask area is outside the headphones because that's how we set it up in here. In here, we have to where the colors or the impact of whatever change that we made are going to be outside of this mask area. And we can change it back if you just click on this. Now everything on the inside, you see how that's working? Everything on the inside, the shaded in, that's where our mask area is. But we want the outside, and so bam, there you go. You know, this is how you can be able to work and kind of finesse that. Tell you what, here in the highlights, let's add some cyan in there, and then here in the shadow area, let's add some blue. So you can see exactly what's happening. Now watch this. We can come in and we can make adjustments to our power window. And look at your shadows. This gives you look at where your shadow areas are. Look at all those different shadow areas. You can see the heavy influence of the blue in those shadow areas. Now we can change that. If we want to change that over here, you see shadows are more green, adding some yellow. We can even come back over here towards the center and start coming down over here, more green. So there's a lot that you can do with these power windows, and they all work pretty much the same way. You know, the pen tool is going to be a little different because, you know, and I'm going to say a little different because of how you really can use it for tracking and placement. So as you can see, everything that we're looking at right now is on the outside. So this is how you can begin to influence things like color and exposure and sharpness and even blur. We can come in here and we can actually add some blur to it. Okay, but this is how you can use the power window. Now, there's nothing in this particular clip that's actually moving, but if we wanted to be able to have these headphones, let's say tracked, if the camera was moving, but we want to be able to track those headphones so that way our exposure changes or color changes would continue to live no matter where the camera moves. We just have to track it, and you can track these power windows. Okay, and this is the actual tracker window right here. And so if we could track from one clip to the next, this is just flat. Okay, it's just flat. It's just a simple handheld clip. You could just be able to click on pan. We're going to say the entire clip, and then you can there you go. So this will make sure that our actual clip stays in place. We're tracking both forwards and backwards. So now whatever change that we make, it doesn't matter anywhere at all where the camera goes, because we've just tracked it. And that information is stored within this power window. Okay, so now if we come out here and let's reset those color changes. So right now we have our power window to where everything on the outside of the mask is what we can affect change in. Let's do this. Let's come in here. Let's come and make some adjustments to change, some exposure adjustments. We want to keep our headphones as the centerpiece, the absolute subject of this scene, right? So we want to make the headphones stand out more than anything else. All right, so we'll come in here, we'll do this. As you can see here, you can also increase your softness. Okay, that way you don't see all the rough edges of your mask. And guys, this is really for the most part how all of these masks operate. You know, you can come in and kind of emphasize certain things, and like this right here. Let's say if we just really wanted to be able to focus in, you know, they call it relighting, but let's say if we just really want to be able to focus in on just these headphones. You see how we've just made everything else a lot darker. We've reduced the exposure, but we just made the name brand of those headphones stand out. You see, it's a subtle thing, especially when you control the softness of it, and especially when you're going and using your curves properly. And you know, it just like I said, it gives you control over all these different things. And all I did was I just hit P on my keyboard to allow me to see full screen. Okay. Now, again, we can also see here that we can adjust where our mask is. We can also decide we want to emphasize. Let's say we want to emphasize something else. Let's say you got two different scenes or setups. We want to emphasize something else. Now we want to emphasize the mouse. See how we're able to easily do that? We've got a nice soft edge, so it's kind of hard to just say, okay, this is where the edge of that power window is, and that's where we want it. You know, if we wanted to, let's say we want to just only highlight this part, well, we can do that. We can do that. Let's bring it over here up on the computer. You see that? Now, creatively, you can do quite a bit with this. You know what I'm saying? So guys, this is again like this. These are the power windows, and let's see. That's a seat. It's over there. Can't really see that. It's blurred out pretty good, but yeah. Again, like I say, guys, these are the power windows. As you can see, you can do quite a bit. Now we've made that keyboard and that laptop, you know, the most important thing. Now we've made this mouse the most important thing. This would be the center of the focus. Everybody's eyes would be immediately drawn to this mouse. Now this, we've just made the earmuff on that headphone the most important thing. This is how we can use our power windows. So I'll tell you what, let's do this. I'm going to reset that. Now let's come in here and do a gradient. Okay, so I just selected gradient. And now let's see, how can we use this? Well, remember, this is our anchor point right here. Which way do we want the gradient to go? We want it to go this way? Or do we want it to go this way? How far out do we want it to go? You can keep pulling that bad boy as far as you want. So let's do this. So we want, let's bring it around here. There we go. Let's bring it around here. And then yeah, there we go. Okay, so we've got that computer screen right there, right? We can make it look and appear as if this computer screen is flat out doing it. And so there we go. We want to bring down our exposure up top, or where that window was. Look at that. I love the gradient exposure tool on here. I just do. I always have. It's been probably one of my favorite. There's a lot that you can be able to do with these. And again, you know, it's whatever correction that you want. So we've got a computer monitor over here, or a laptop screen over there. And we're coming over here, right? So let's do this. Let's come over here. Let's add a little color in our highlights. You see that? We just added some blue in there, okay? And then when you pull it out, this is where our anchor point is, so we can be able to make that wherever we want it. Okay, we can even have it to come out this way. But now watch this. Let's add another. This time, let's do something different. We have blue on that side. Let's introduce a little orange. A little orange and green. Yeah. Yeah, guys. So, you know, again, like I said, there are a ton of things that you can do with these power windows. You know, I mean, you can get about as creative as you want with these power windows, and of course, there's quite a few different things that we can actually look at and see, and just say, hey, this is what we want to do. You know, but you can create all kinds of looks. You know, of course, this wouldn't really work out as something realistic because there's no green or orange or yellow lights in the scene. But can you imagine having a lamp, and that lamp is a certain color, and you just want to be able to show, you know, some different colors on that lamp. So I'm gonna come over here now. We'll go ahead and reset this. Come over to our curves and reset that exposure change. Now we're back to our regular image, right? Okay. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna actually So now let's go to our second clip. And again, like I said, these are just a couple of clips that we have, and we're going to do the exact same thing. Let me turn my clips on here, because what I want to do is I want to use this, and I'm going to create a still, so I don't have to redo this again. You see, just create a still right here. So I'm going to click over here, and now everything I just did, except for the secondary correction where I use my power windows, is already stored within this still. So when I come over here and move my mouse, I can see what those changes would look like automatically. You see that? Right click and go to apply grade. And now everything that we did in the previous image is now the same in this particular image. Okay. So now this is just a clip of the camera. That's all it is. Now let's do the same thing. See if we've got a little bit more room to play around. Let me turn my gallery off, and I'll turn my clips off. We're just going to mess with this clip. And so now we've got our subject. Let's look at where we are. Okay, when you look at the trace for this, you can look here on your waveform. You can see like here where it is really approaching clipping. That's just really a big bright light behind a sheet of diffusion on this side, because I'm sitting on this side of the computer. Now, we're actually not clipping anywhere, and as you can see just here, you know, this looks decent as far as exposure. We've got a nice open waveform scope as far as the reading of it, but over here this is going to be quite obvious. You know, there's you can't even see what that, you know, the texture in that material, and I'm perfectly fine with that. This is just something I did. But even here, let's come over here and bring it down just a smidge on that exposure. All right, and then we're going to bring this up just a little bit. Then we're going to come over to our primary color wheels. I want to open up my shadow area just a little bit, just to give me a little bit more room to play around. And now I'm going to come over here to my subject. I'm going to go to my power window. Let's play with the gradient first, just because I like it. Okay, so I'm going to take this. Now, we haven't made any changes yet, but once that's all I want to do. Now, I'm going to come over here to my color wheels. Actually, I'm going to come over here to my curve. Let's go ahead and bring that exposure way down. Now we've got our, we have our gradient, and you can see here. All right. Now over here, it kind of doesn't make any sense because there's no, like light source over here that would make it throw a shadow like over this camera right here. But as you can see, once again, if there was something you wanted to do, you could. Like I could put this out here, and I could add, because you see the shadows that's already in that corner over there. I could maybe kind of add a little bit, there, just for a little extra texture as far as the lighting is concerned. Let's see. I'm going to come over here now. I'm going to add a power window, a circular power window over this camera. Let me turn this gradient off. I just wanted to show you that. And then what am I going to do with it? I'm going to make that mask go away from the camera. Okay. Now you see how you can see that circle right around that camera. Let's open it up a little more. I'm also going to come over here and just like here for my shadows, just pull it down some in the center. So see, we've just made the camera stand out a lot, and it also brought down the exposure on that diffusion sheet. So this is another way that I like to use to be able to kind of clear my highlights without it affecting the highlights of everything in my scene. All right, and this is power of those power windows. I mean, it's massive. I love it. I'm pretty sure I use a power window on just about every edit that I do. And because you have the different shapes and the different sizes and the individual and independent controls of those power windows, it allows you to go in and do some pretty customized looks. This is where we started out with And then this is how we're able to really bring that in and bring that down, you know. So you see how, I'm going to bring this right here in some. This is what I want the focus to be on right here. And so I'm able to do that and create just that look. I want to make this right here stand out. You can say from kind of the top of this battery plate all the way down to the bottom of that lens and the tripod head. That's what I want to be the focus. So I'm going to put that power window right around it, and then I'm going to let everything else kind of spread out. We're not really that concerned, but if someone were to look at this image, they're not getting ready to first look at, you know, this that boom pole or that laptop, or maybe the laptop because of how bright it is. But one of the things that they are going to look at is they're going to probably go straight to this straight to this camera. So that's what we've just created. We've just created a way for us to make that camera stand out in the spotlight. So you can do that with a product or a person or an object, whatever it is that you want to do it with. You are able to do that using these power windows. Now, we learned about the layer and the parallel node. And so we know we can create a parallel node right here, right? Let's say this time, and I just did Option P. And if you've never used a parallel node or the layer mixer node, I'll put a link for those videos on this video. Okay, now let's change this to laptop. Okay, I'm going to put a resultant over here just so we can make sure that's what I do. And I like to call it resultant. For me, it always serves as a placeholder before I get ready to start on my next deal. But we've got a parallel node right here. Okay, we just did that with Option P, and we're going to put a node. My bad. We're going to put we're going to make an adjustment to just this monitor screen over here. Okay, so I'm going to bring that over here because we've made these other adjustments. Well, now I want to bring down the exposure on this monitor, but I don't want to bring it down for everything. So how about this? We've got a parallel node. Let's start here first. And also let's see if it makes sense, because it really does kind of stand out. All right. So now those changes are only happening on that MacBook screen. You see what I'm saying? So now watch this. We've gone from super bright and we've knocked it down some. Okay. And we can even go in and add a little temperature change in there if we want to, make it about as warm as the rest of the room. These power windows are amazing. Now let's say this scene was a moving scene. We could literally track this. So that way the changes that we make, no matter how that camera moves, would also make those changes follow that particular object. Okay. So here, I'll do that now. I just clicked on our tracker window right next to our power windows. It's our tracker windows, and it's going to be for this particular power window. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and hit the track forward and reverse button right here. So now you see it's going to track that window right there. So any changes that we made within that power window are going to stay with this. Okay, now let's go back up here. We didn't track on the other one. Let's come back up here. Now we're going to track this one. Okay, so see, it's going to track it. There it goes. All right, now we can click anywhere, and you can see that as we play this, we just hit this. The changes that we made, they're going to stay consistent with this clip for both of those objects, the camera, the space outside of the camera, and also the space for the laptop screen. It's going to stay just like that. You won't have to worry about, every time it moves, the areas that are bright or the areas that are dark are going to move with it. No, we just tracked it. We tracked it, and the changes are going to hold true. So guys, look, that in a nutshell are how the power windows work. You can use those power windows to make so many changes and have so much control over your images. Once you've gotten your exposure and your colors corrected and you're ready to start doing other things, you can use those power windows to affect individual parts of your particular video project. project. If you want something to be one color at some point, at sometimes, you know, or a certain size, or how you want to sketch, whatever it is that you want to do, you create that power window and you make your changes. And then once you make your changes, you can track those changes. And as your video plays, those changes are going to be right there. And you can either track on the clip side or the frame side. If you want to do it frame by frame by frame, so that you can adjust those power windows with every frame, so that it also follows your subject that way. If the tracker doesn't do exactly the way you want to do it, that is a way that you can be able to do that. And it's easy, it's simple. I'm going to say, and I wanted to keep this in a format that if you follow along with your own work, that you be able to practice, because, you know, there are some things I could probably just have you do and you just be copying what I'm doing. I'd rather show this to you in a way that as you're doing it, you can see how your own mistakes or your own issues with your files or your own issues with your clip, you know, you can be able to overcome those. And that's pretty much what we've been doing here the whole time. So look, if you have a question, drop it below in the comments. The power windows, as you can see, they're not crazy difficult, but it just takes a little getting used to. So keep trying, keep throwing those power windows up. Go in there and track something. You know, find a clip of a cell phone and drag, you know, use the pen tool, go over that and, you know, add the 4 points around inside of that cell phone window, and then just track it throughout the duration of that clip. And put something else in it, and you can literally watch how whatever it is you have in it will follow that phone, and you'll be like, wow, so that's how they did that. But I want you to do it using your own footage. And now I have some extra footage. If you guys need some extra footage just to be able to play around with, I've got some stuff that you can I dare you to break it. So look, guys, hopefully this video has brought some added value to you and your content creation. Let's get in these power windows, you know, try them out. I mean, it's a huge part of the editing process. When we begin to start doing things like masking and tracking and magic mask and rotoscoping and doing a lot of the fancy editing, you need to have a solid foundation in these power windows. For the DaVinci Resolve, on the DaVinci Resolve color page, you just need to have a solid foundation. These basic tutorials should help you to be able to get that. If they're not helping you to get that, please let me know. If I need to re-explain this in a different way, or if it's something that you say, okay, you know what, JT, I was following you, but then you got to this point and what I saw on my computer is not the same thing that I see on your computer, let me know. And we'll work that part out, and I'll make sure that you're able to get it. So guys, I want to say thank you. I gotta say thank you. We have just hit 551 subscribers, 551 new members to this community. I'm thankful, and I'm having a great time. You know, I'm sitting there like, man, what can I show them today? What can I put out there that'll help somebody? Because we're an audience of filling in the gray. You know, I don't want you to have to worry about trying to figure stuff out by using common sense, or have to watch 4 to 5 different YouTube videos to be able to get it. That's why I'm so intent on saying, if you're following and something doesn't quite work for you on your clip, let me know. But guys, thank you for watching this video. I truly appreciate you spending your time here with me today. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. It definitely helps. You know, there are things that I look at as well with the performance of the channel, and it shows me if I'm on the right track or not. And hopefully this video has brought some added value to you and your content creation. We got so much coming up. I mean, so much. I'm looking at this stuff, right, and I'm like, man, if they get this part, when we get to here, oh, it's going down. Yeah, for sure. So, hey, look, guys, I want to thank you for this time, and welcome to the community. You know, I'm glad you clicked on this video. Go jump in those power windows. Remember, you can't break it.